Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today on Beyond the Curtain and my next interview in the Lifting the Curtain series. Today, I'm speaking to Jonny Donahoe, who is starring in his autobiographical show, Forgiveness, which is about to tour the UK. It begins on February 8th in Farnham. Enjoy this conversation with Jonny. Tickets can be bought from jonnydonahoe.co.uk. The link is in the description. Could you first please introduce yourself and tell me a bit about Forgiveness, the show?
Well, my name's Jonny Donahoe. I'm a writer, comedian, theatre maker, and very weak dancer. The first three I do professionally, the last just for fun. And this is my first solo show for about 5 years. The first show I've done since I made a show called Every Brilliant Thing with Duncan Macmillan in 2014, 2015. And this show is called Forgiveness. It's a more personal show than the last one. It's about becoming a father and dealing with my own traumatic childhood, all wrapped into one. I didn't plan on becoming a dad. I was in a long-term relationship, and I am in a long-term. I'm still in that relationship. That was wrong. I'm in a long-term relationship. I'm with my kid's mum, and we're very happy. But I didn't want to have kids. I just wanted. But I realised I didn't want to have kids for all the wrong reasons. And it's about sort of reconciling that, dealing with the trauma of your own past. But it's about storytelling. It's about the stories we tell and why we tell them, and how they can become prisons that we're trapped within, just as much as they become, stories are meant to be the keys that we use as complex, cognizant humans. That's how we teach each other things. That's how we understand the world around each other, is storytelling. Even if you're a physicist, you sort of are using stories to help you understand the work that you're doing, I believe. I'm not a physicist, so maybe I don't know why I jumped into that metaphor, but that be that as it may, yeah. We use stories all the time. And I wondered if we tell the wrong stories. We tell stories of lions and tigers when really we should be telling stories about heart disease. And but the thing is that, walking into a dark forest, hearing a twig snap and it being a pulmonary embolism is less interesting than
of course.
It being a lion or a tiger, I guess. So it's about storytelling, and it's about the stories we tell. And I told myself I didn't want to become a parent because of the childhood that I'd experienced. Yeah. And I learnt through it happening that was not true.
Yeah, and kind of obviously you kind of sort of touched on it, but is that kind of is it fatherhood that then inspired you to create the piece?
Yeah, I suppose. I think I didn't necessarily want to tell this story next. I felt quite blocked by it, actually, my own past, and having a kid is so kind of all-encompassing. I mean, obviously, it's relentless and it's day to day, and it's all around you in a way that nothing else had ever been so much in my life. But also, it kind of it's sort of. Having had a traumatic childhood, it opened up a lot of things that I had to then deal with. Yeah. And one of the ways I deal with things is making work, I guess. Yeah. And this is that.
And I guess, like as you say, has that kind of been more of a healing process than kind of writing?
Very much so. I've worked with so there's the director and dramaturg I've worked with is called P Burton-Morgan, and they are an abuse survivor as well as me. We both are very different backgrounds, but nonetheless, we're both survivors of that, and we both wear that on our sleeve and are quite proud of our own survival and trying to learn how to deal with it. So it's been a very cathartic process. I've been in a very safe place because of the collaboration I've had, and I've worked with a brilliant producer called Makin, who has been incredible at much the same, really protecting me. But yeah, it's been cathartic and emotional.
And I guess, like you say, obviously working with P Burton-Morgan, is that kind of, how did that kind of, obviously, as you say, they've kind of had similar experiences. How did, obviously, they come to the process? Was it something you found, or was that the producer that kind of pulled you together?
We have sort of known each other through mutual collaborators for a long time, but never worked together. And I actually asked P some time ago for help mentoring me as an artist who was making their own work outside of a big company. How do you get it funded? How do you do all of these, all the things that you need to know as an artist these days, unless you are lucky enough to be given a sort of salaried position somewhere where someone else does the important stuff that you don't know how to do. So actually we met in a cafe to discuss how I better apply for funding and better market my own work. And we liked each other's work, it turns out. And so we started from a very practical conversation that became a long conversation about art, that became, I need a director, would you be interested?
Yeah. It's always good. And obviously, as you said, kind of, well, you've already touched this, but as it kind of guess, and maybe not because you've not performed it yet, but has it kind of changed your own kind of, as you say, your own experiences now, kind of, as you say, dealing with fatherhood?
So in 2019, I did a month's run at Summerhall as a work in progress.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Summerhall in Edinburgh, the part of the festival. This is amazing arts centre. And they let me run it at a very reduced ticket price, for a month and have no press come in, which is incredibly generous of them because they can't have made any money. And I really appreciate their support in allowing that to happen. But that I had this certain belief that the best way to tell a true story is to just open your mouth and start talking. And I wanted to walk onto stage and tell the story every day, but not be bogged down in the structure of it, because I think we naturally tell stories. We're descended from the primitive people who were best able to tell and understand stories. If you are able to understand from a story what it means, you learn about dangers and you survive. So we kind of evolved as the best storytellers and the best story listeners. And I think everyone can naturally tell a story. Everyone knows the rhythm and beats of a story in their head if they just start talking. It's just you get really bogged down if you start writing it, I think. So I wanted to start with it being a completely oral piece of work. And then I hired a really amazing artist who is also had, like most artists, had a slash, which was that they knew how to audio type. And they typed it up for us. And then we started working on it and sort of pulling it apart and beating it into shape.
Amazing.
I don't think I've answered the question, which was, can you remind me what your question was?
Has it kind of shaped your kind of like current experience, as you say, with fatherhood now you've kind of written the show, and obviously I know you, like you say, you performed it a couple of years ago.
Well, it's very much about, because of COVID, this is a show that I would have performed maybe at the very, very start of 2020, so 2 years ago, were the original tour dates. And then it's been pushed back a lot. And I've then really worked on it and changed it. But it is a story about having a baby. And I now have a 4-year-old. So in a way, it's sort of about trying to remember kind of that very early experience rather than... So it is, I wouldn't say it's shaping it in that sense, but it really shaped it in the developing work, when I started it.
Yeah, and as you kind of just touched on as well, like, as a comedian as well, does it like evolve like every performance? Like, does it slightly change? I guess that's
definitely. And I like to talk to the room, not in the way a stand-up would, which is to get jokes out of them, but to engage and experience something with them. Make it as sort of as live and as and just discuss something, but also to share something, to feel like you're all part of one experience rather than bystanders.
Yeah, and the piece is kind of described, well, one website I read it as hilarious and heartbreaking in equal measure. How do you go about kind of striking that balance so it's not too heavy on one side or too light the other side?
That's a good question. I just I've always made, so in my, I do, so as well as doing solo shows, I work as a comedian a lot. I have a group called Johnny and the Baptists, and we tour the country and make lots of things for Radio 4 and other bits and pieces. And we always make silly, fun shows about serious things. I think it's just how I respond to the world is that mixture.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't. It's very sweet of that website to call it heartbreaking and hilarious. I really appreciate that, but I wouldn't be quite so immodest. But I would say that I'm always trying to be funny and serious, and about I'd rather talk about heartbreak or loss or trauma than like pencils or
something like that,
jam. I don't know. I can't help it. It's how I sort of how I make jokes about the most serious things, but I'm also very serious about them as well.
Yeah, I guess that makes it more real, though, I suppose, like you say.
Yeah.
But I guess has it kind of like writing a piece about yourself? Is that kind of more make it, obviously, I know it's obviously a personal experience anyway, but is that like different to if you're writing, like doing a comedy piece that's just like general kind of, like you say, some of the stuff you do with the people, like, does that kind of, like yourself, putting yourself on the stage, is that more of a scary kind of process, or is that, again, kind of helpful?
No, I think it just, for me, it isn't, because it's sort of what I've done for a long time and something I really enjoy doing. But I also think I've made shows that are playing a character, that are taking on a role, that are discussing something, sort of opening yourself up to an investigation, and creating a part. And it's easier to just be you. I promise. I mean, it is easier because I don't have to do any. I definitely don't have to do any makeup.
Solid.
Not really any costume, and I don't have to get into character. Because all the things I'm saying are true.
Yeah, which is always amazing. If you had to have a drink now with your younger self, what would you probably say to yourself, reflecting back?
Well, I've been sober for 3 years, so the younger self, I guess, would probably be having a lager, and I'd be having a lemonade.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure before I got a chance to get a word in, he'd ask, "What's all this about?"
Yeah.
But I'd say, and I'd have to say, well, it's impossible to have kids and handle a hangover. But in my opinion, what would I say to my younger self? I think I spent my 20s I spent a lot of my 20s in quite a dark place, and the reason for that was not reaching out for help earlier. So I think 2022 Jonny is also a product of the time that he gets to live in. We're really upfront and relaxed about mental health things now. In fact, you're praised for being honest and upfront about them. When I was 20, which is about 15 years ago, that certainly didn't feel the way. That certainly didn't feel true.
Yeah.
And I really struggled. Both I'm somebody I've got ADHD. I'm dyspraxic. I have chronic clinical depression. All of those things I sort of manage and maintain now and have a really lovely life. And in my 20s, it was just a sort of car crash of drinking and struggling. And I'd love to just own up to it all, just relax about it, and talk to everyone and be really upfront and honest, because that was a process that started and I wish I'd done more to kind of facilitate when I was younger, both for my own self and for the world around me and for my allies and friends. And get help. And what else? And I would also say don't. And I'd also want the lottery numbers, I guess.
That's true.
I'd be like, here you go, because then I wouldn't have had to have rented.
Yeah, all the good stuff, you see. To kind of wrap it up, though, it's the big sell moment. Why should audiences come and see Forgiveness?
Well, it's a very truthful and honest show. It's a very meaningful show, I think, but it is very funny. If you enjoyed, I mean, Every Brilliant Thing was a big success for us, and we were very surprised and glad of that. So if you saw that show, I think you will get a huge amount from, and enjoyed it. Then I think you'll also get a huge amount from this. But also, it's a very honest and genuine and loving show, and it's very funny as well as being serious in places. And we've all been through quite a lot in the last couple of years, and I hope it will be fun and cathartic for people coming back to the theatre, having not been able to be there for a long time. And this is a nice, warm show for that, definitely.
Amazing. Well, that leads me to thank you for your time today, and I wish you all the best for the show. If people want to get tickets, you can head to jonnydonahoe.co.uk and see all the dates and everything there, which I fully recommend. So thank you, sir, for your time. Hope you have a good rest of the day, whatever you're doing.
Thank you.